All right. So this is what we're going to do. Chen, I want to start with you today. If you could come off of mute. I have your question here. Why don't you summarize your question? We'll have a group discussion, and then Chris will wrap things up, and we'll move to the next question. Take it away, Chen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I'm coaching a client. Her manager talked to me casually about restructuring my client organization. And I just listened. Apparently, there is dissatisfaction about the structure. I did not offer myself to help the manager because of a couple of reasons. I knew I would not be objective. I would probably protect my client. So I'm in a dilemma. Although I can offer to restructure the organization, I did not. So I'd like to hear advice from others.
So let me summarize the question, Chen, to make sure I've got it. You're coaching this guy, and this person's boss is thinking about restructuring his organization. It could have some negative ramification or effect on him. He's involving in the process. Should you help restructure or just be the coach and stay out of the way? Is that the question?
Correct.
Okay, guys, let's open it up. Come off of mute. Let's share your thoughts. What would you do? What advice can you give to Chen?
Andy, this is Terry, and the only advice I would have would be around conflict of interest. If you feel like it would be a conflict of interest to serve one or the other, then I think a choice would be required. If there's no conflict of interest, then it's easy to do both.
All right, thank you, Terry.
Hi, this is Deb Mitchell.
Hi, Deb.
Hi. Here's a thought. I wonder why you wouldn't talk to the client's manager about involving the client, because you called out here, I think I heard it, structure the client's organization. So yep. I think working with their manager and understanding that restructuring and then working with the client, I think the coach is in a unique situation to facilitate, but I'd love to hear everyone else's opinion.
Thanks, Deb. Who else? Anybody else? Yeah, DR.
I agree that you should probably see if you can try to talk to all parties and see if people would be willing to talk together about this and to see if maybe there's a way to have it be more open and out on the table. If not, then you hold to your confidences and you just step back.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Mark, you're on mute, my friend. I love the painting in the background. It's rather spectacular.
It's from my great-great-grandfather. So for another day, we can talk about that. But Chen, I have a question. Well, two questions. One is just to clarify, when you're speaking about your client's organization, are you talking about the organization in which your client manages, or is he part of the organization and it's the client's manager that you're restructuring that larger organization? So that's the first.
Yeah, so let me clarify. This client's organization.
So
then
that client.
It's my client is her own organization.
Okay. So, and why do you feel, because you're coaching her, you said when you introduced the issue, that you feel like you would not be objective because she is your client? Is that because you've gotten feedback from people and you know something about the people? Is that where the conflict is? Where do you see the conflict?
I fear conflict is if I serve my client, I shall make her more successful and become her advocate in front of her manager. Her manager comes from a different position, and she may not go with my view. I may bias managers as a hospital president. This is a kind of working on a fine line. So conflict interest, that's a good question. It's whose interest? Is my client's interest or the overall hospital's interest?
All right, so Chris, Chris, would you like to summarize this and we'll move on? Oh, Hugh, go ahead, Hugh.
Chen, my brother, you are a person of utmost integrity. So I think that there's two things. One is it in your client's best interest to serve them in helping them to restructure? So number one, that's the first question I always ask is it in my client's best interest to have me help them? So if by helping them restructure that I am actually doing them a good service and that I'm providing value, then I think it's number one, worth a conversation. I think the second piece is, can you, and I think you can because I know you, be disciplined enough to put on your organization transformation hat at one point and your coaching hat at another. See, I see those things as different and distinct. Consulting is a hybrid of, coaching for me is a hybrid of consulting, and consulting is somewhat of a hybrid of coaching. So, can you be of service? And it may actually be to her advantage to have you involved as opposed to a limiter. So that's my 2 cents. And I think the answer is yes.
Okay.
But then again, the answer is always yes.
Thank you, Hugh. Now, Jathan, did I see you raise your hand, Jathan? No? No? Okay, Chris, any final thoughts on this?
Yes. As I sat and listened to this, I jotted down a few notes. And I'm going to go back to when I worked at McKinsey teaching leadership. One of the key questions the McKinsey consultants would ask their clients is, what business are you in? So the question I would ask all of us is, what business are we in? And as I listened to all of this, and when Chen, posed it, I know the answer for me clearly. I would not get involved in a reorganization. I'm not a consultant. I, first of all, don't know anything about it. I don't know how a hospital should reorganize, or I could hope ask them some questions. But I think the simplicity for me and what's made me successful, and I think Marshall Goldsmith and Frank and those of us, we're really clear on what we do. I help successful individuals and teams have a positive change in behavior that's sustainable and it's recognized and acknowledged by others. That's all I do. I have a list on my webpage of the most worked on leadership skills. I'm not a consultant, and I think as we look at a lot of this, there are certain consulting firms that say, well, you never provide structure, you only ask questions. Well, I certainly don't subscribe to that. I offer a lot of suggestions about what I have some subject matter expertise in. And one of the things I'm really clear on is I don't have any expertise in how to reorganize an organization, whether it's a hospital, whether it's an oil company, whether it's a high-tech firm. So I think the challenge for all of us, and I'm not saying don't do both, just be clear on what you're doing. Are they engaging you as a consultant to help with a reorganization? Or have they engaged you to work with this woman on behavioral issues? I have a challenge. I would have difficulty doing both personally. And so, all the words have meanings. Are you a consultant? Are you a leadership coach? I describe myself not as an executive coach. I describe myself as a leadership coach. And that's what I do. And I show results from that. So I would just say the challenge is, we've talked around this a lot. Be clear on what the engagement is. And I think part of this for me is I only get paid at the end of an engagement, and only if the person has improved on the couple of leadership skills that they picked as seen by the stakeholders at the end. That's it. That's all I do. I don't get into other things.